اوكي، اخر اشي خلصناه حكينا فيه عن Oxford Collocation Dictionary، صح؟
مس.
تمام. الآن one of the main things we need to understand about translation, and we discussed this in detail the first 2 sessions, is that translation is not about writing down things you know. It's about doing research. It's about looking for the correct meaning that suits the context and suits the target language. Now, sometimes we come across certain terminology and we don't know which words suit that context in the target language. So how can I look for them? We don't always find the correct answer in dictionaries, not even Reverso, not even in Maani. So how can I look for terms? How can I look for words? How can I look for concepts that I have no information about? Now, first of all, the easiest way is to use the search bar, the search engine. And here I say engine, not translator. So we have Google Translator and we have Google Engine. The search engine itself, we write the word we want. For example, the source text is in Arabic. So I write down the word in Arabic, and then and then I add the word English. I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm looking for something that's called العصف الذهني. And I couldn't find it in any of the dictionaries I have told you about. In that case, I go to Google, to the search bar, and I say العصف الذهني and the word English. And then it provides me with any article that has العصف الذهني with the word English in that, or any of the alphabets, English alphabets in that article. The opposite happens when we want, for example, to look for brainstorming. So I say brainstorming and Arabic. Sometimes you find results immediately after you do this step, but sometimes this step isn't sufficient, especially if the term is not common, okay? So if the term is not common and I did step 1 and still didn't find the answer, what I do is that if the term includes more than one word, for example, العصف الذهني consists of 2 words. So if the term consists of more than one word, I try to guess the possible meaning of one of these words. And then I write it down in the search bar. For example, I come across العلوم النفسية الاجتماعية, and I don't know how it's translated in English. So I say العلوم النفسية الاجتماعية. أكيد واحدة من هاي الكلمات مثلا النفسية فيش غير psychological. فبروح إيش بكتب علوم نفسية اجتماعية مع كلمة psychological بالإنجليزي. يعني علوم نفسية اجتماعية بالعربي وكلمة psychological بالإنجليزي أو social. يعني حسب أنا مين فيهم اللي أنا معتبر إنه مستحيل يكون لها ترجمة تانية أو مش مستحيل، يعني اللي بخمن. يعني أنا ممكن أجرب بسايكولوجيكال وما ألاقيش، وممكن أجرب بسوشيال وما ألاقيش، فيعني حسب. فبيطلع لي إيش على طول زي كده، بيطلع لي النصوص أو المحتوى العربي اللي موجود فيه كمان النص باللغة الإنجليزية أو الترم باللغة الإنجليزية. وهذا لحسن حظنا في إيش؟ المحتوى العربي اللي بيكون فيه مواد تتعلق بعلوم أصلها غربي أو يعني المستحدث فيها في الأصل في الأبحاث الغربية أو يعني الإنجليزية، بتلاقي إنه يميل كاتب المحتوى اللغة العربية إنه يضع المسمى باللغة الإنجليزية. فهذا أنا لما بدور بسهل لي إني أعرف المجتمع اللي متخصص في هذا المجال إيش اللفظ الصحيح اللي هو بيستخدمه في السياق هذا. فجربت هيك وما لقيتش مثلا، يعني أنا ما زبطتش معايا. فلنفترض إني أنا بدي أعرف كلمة السلوك إيش معناها. الآن كلمة سلوك ممكن تيجي behavior، ممكن تيجي attitude، ممكن تيجي trend. لكن أنا عارفة إنه أنا قاعدة بشتغل ضمن مجال اسمه psychology. فأنا بدي أعرف كلمة السلوكية إيش بيستخدموا علماء النفس عشان يوصفوا كلمة سلوك. بيستخدم attitude ولا behavior ولا بيستخدم trend. فبروح بكتب إيش الكلمة اللي أنا بدي إياها بالنص الأصلي باللغة الأصلية اللي أنا قاعدة بترجم منها، زائد المجال العلمي أو الرأس أو يعني أساس العلم اللي أنا قاعدة بترجم فيه بالإنجليزي. يعني مثلا ممكن أنا أكون بدي أعرف كيف بيحكوا كلمة قلب في مجال الطب، فبروح بكتب قلب medicine. تمام؟ واضح الموضوع هذه؟ واضحة الطريقة هاي؟
أيوة.
بس ممكن تعيديها على السريع، أنا ما كانش عندي الصوت عمال لسه زبط.
هو إحنا سجلنا المحاضرة فإحنا إن شاء الله بنرفعها، بس حاضر حايد. باختصار إنه أنا بكون مثلا أنا لما بيجيني أي نوع ملف للترجمة بكون عارف إيش العلم يندرج تحت أي علم أو تحت أي تخصص، تحت أي discipline. فلما بدي أبحث عن كلمة معينة بدي أعرف هاي الكلمة. طبعا إحنا عارفين إنه ممكن تكون كلمة واحدة نفسها، لكن في كل مجال تختلف. تمام؟ يعني مثلا زي ما حكينا كلمة سلوك في الشراء، السلوك أحيانا سلوك الزبون بنقول الترند، إنه إيش الأشياء اللي هم بيميلوا إنهم يشتروها. تمام؟ فأنا بدي كلمة سلوك في سياق علم النفس، فبروح بكتب العلم هذا. أنا بكون مثلا عارفة اسمه بالإنجليزي أو طبعا فايس فيرسا يعني ممكن يكون بالعربي. بروح بكتب السلوكية psychology، فإيش بيطلع لي؟ علم النفس السلوكي behavioral psychology. فبعرف إنه السلوك في علم النفس هو behavior. وزيادة في التأكد بروح برجع بكتب يعني بخصص الموضوع نفسه اللي أنا بشتغل عليه مع كلمة behavior، فبطلع يعني بنتيجة بتأكد فيها إنه والله هذا هو المناسب ولا مش المناسب. One of the easiest ways is to just ask an expert. For example, if I'm working on a medical text and my friend, my sister, my father, my cousin is a doctor, just call them, ask them, how do you say this within your community as doctors, or within your community as professors, or as engineers, or as whatever their field of expertise is. And same thing happens if you're translating a legal document. Sometimes you don't get it. Sometimes you don't understand what's being said. So you go and you ask a lawyer or you ask an engineer. One of the problems you might find when translating technical texts, especially if it's related to engineering, and especially if it's in Gaza, there are certain words, certain terms that are not originally English and not originally Arabic. Some words are originally Hebrew, Ibriya. So when you read the text in Arabic, you don't understand what it refers to. And if you look the word up online, you still would not find a solution. You would not find an answer. You would not get it. Why? Because again, it's not Arabic, it's not English. It comes from a different language. So what you do in this case is that you have to ask someone who's involved in this particular field or discipline. Now, There's also another way that I have not included in the slides. Use Google Images. They're very useful. Sometimes the word is something you know, especially if you're working with tools or devices, technical translation. The easiest way is to write the tool's name online and then try to start your research from that point. You see the item with your eyes, so you start understanding what the item refers to. So when you start looking for words in Arabic, for example, you would also take the translated word, Google it, go to images, and see if it gives you the same image or not. If it gives you the same image, then this is the name of the device or the name of the tool. Makes sense?
Yes.
Now, I always say this, that translators, especially beginners, should not trust themselves. And by that, I mean, when you translate, don't take for granted the information you know, because you're still a beginner. You're not much involved in translation. You're not much of a reader. You have to slow down and question the decisions that you make along the journey of translation. Now, does that mean by not trusting myself, I have to keep doubting? No, it's not about being doubtful. It's not about having low self-esteem, not having confidence. There's a difference between confidence and trusting your translations. You should have confidence. But what I mean here is that don't think that you know the answer. Don't assume that you know the answer. Keep looking. I've been working as a translator for 10 years, and I still look for the correct preposition. I still look for the correct noun that comes with the correct verb. I look for collocations. I double check the structure. I double check the spelling. I double check the meaning. So you should always keep that in mind when you translate, especially when you work with prepositions. Make sure that you're using the correct preposition. Translators grow by their reputation. So if you send a low quality translation to someone, it's going to affect your reputation as a translator. So in order to have a good reputation, you need to send error-free translations. Keep editing, keep reading, keep reviewing, make sure that the words you're using are correct, make sure that the structure is suitable. If you're translating from English to Arabic into Arabic, make sure that you understand the text correctly. And because English language is not our native language, sometimes the text has a hidden joke, a hidden pun, a hidden meaning, a meaning that you would not understand if you are not really involved in the culture of the language. And I'll give you an example. One of the translation professors was talking about the community of translators and how, as translators, we should defend each other and we should stand up for each other. So while he was talking, he said, I should vote for my home team. Now, what he means here, he's referring to, in every country, there's a national team, whether it is for football, basketball, whatever, like known sports in that city or in that country. And here he used the image of voting for your home team, for your favorite or for your national football team or national basketball team, and the image of having your own community of translators or the community of translators in general. Now, if this is a part of a text that you have to translate, if you don't really understand the relationship or the connotation or the meaning that lies behind the idea of a home team, you would not be able to translate it. Instead, you would misrepresent the idea in the target language or in the target text to the extent that the reader of the target text would not understand the text. Hence, the whole idea of communication that results from translation is lost. If you are in doubt, always look up or look for similar structures. When you're translating from English into Arabic and you feel that the structure of the sentence is complicated and you don't get it, look it up, check it, read about it, read from grammar sources, and then go back to the text, reread it, and try to understand what it means. Now, again, don't think that translation is just about you using existing knowledge in your head and the online dictionary you have. It's a long process of research, and that is what distinguishes a good translator from a bad one. A good translator deals with a text as a whole and tries his best or her best to communicate the meaning in the most natural way that the target language would understand or would encompass. Look up similar concepts, terminology, try to see if it makes sense. After you find the correct terminology, look it up again, Google it, and see if it truly means what you want it to mean. Look up similar translations. If other people have translated similar documents related to this field, go and check them. Now, the final stage of your work as a translator is that you need to edit and proofread your work. Now, how do we edit and how do we proofread, and what's the difference? Now, you need to understand that editing and proofreading is part of your job as a translator, translating your own text, editing and proofreading your own text, but it also has its separate field of work, which means you can also work as an editor and a proofreader. So let's explain the difference between the two. And okay, so what's the difference between editing and proofreading? When you edit, it's not just about the minor details. You look at the structures as a whole. You think about rearranging sentences, and we're going to notice this during the practice of translation, that sometimes as a translator, you're going to rearrange the flow of ideas, rearrange the structure, begin with the end of the sentence, start with the second sentence, or reordering the ideas, but it's not going to happen, for example, at a large scale. For example, I would not rearrange ideas from one page to another. We're talking about a paragraph level, 4 to 5 lines level, and it usually connects to, it's usually related to how it sounds more natural in the language I'm translating into. Because sometimes the order of information in one language is different from the order of information in the other language. Another thing is that you would notice that in English, you could have very long strings of, or a very long string of subjects. Like the subject would be so too long, I would go with too long. And then you would have, for example, the verb at the very end, and it's a single word. Now in Arabic, doing that may sound awkward and unnatural. So you're going to have to revise the order of information in the translation. Now, what do I look for when I edit? I look for how natural the sentence is, how natural the structure is. I also look for errors related to cohesion, errors related to the choice of words. Am I using words correctly? Choices related or decisions related to clarity and ambiguity. Now, proofreading Proofreading is about the minor details. Did I spell all words correctly? Did I use punctuation correctly? Am I consistent or not? Am I using the same spelling system along the work or not? For example, in British English, you say color, C-O-L-O-U-R, but you say, and you say, for example, behavior, B-E-H-A-V-I-O-U-R. So have I used the words, the spelling in British along the entire work or not? And have I used the same term to describe the same word or the same concept or not? So you need to, this is part of proofreading. Now, editing takes more time, takes more effort. And then when you're done, you sleep on it, which means you spend at least like a night over it. And then you go the next morning, you read it really quickly and make sure that, again, it's free of mistakes. And then you submit your translation. Now, if you find after a couple of days any mistakes you have made, you go and check with the person. If you find any mistakes, you go back and you check with them, and you check with the client and tell them that you made them. You don't have to tell them that you made a mistake. You can tell them that please use this revised version instead of the one I had already submitted. And this is out of being ethical and all. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions?
Yes, I have one. I want to ask, how can we learn more about the connotation of the word? Maybe the denotation is easy, but connotations, how can we?
Yeah, you have to read. That's the only way. You have to involve yourself in the culture. There's no other way. The more you read,
okay.
Yeah, better.
تمام.
حد تاني عنده سؤال؟ يعني ما فيش حاجة اسمها أروح مثلا أحفظ الكتاب تبع الكولوكيشنز. ممكن أنا أعيش وأموت وهدول الكولوكيشنز اللي في الكتاب ما يمروش عليا. فلا, I try to read things that are relevant to the field of work that I'm trying to specialize in, and that helps. Any other questions?
مس كمان انت مثلا لما يكون عندنا مثلا expressions بالعربي ومش عارفه اجيب كيف معناهم بالانجليزي، مثلا تعبير ذهبت ادراج الرياح، كيف ممكن ادور عليها؟ يعني انا بحاول بس ما بعرفش كيف استعمل القواميس اللي عندي اني اوصل للمعنى.
هو المفروض درس اليوم اجاب عن سؤالك، فانا ايش رح اعمل؟ رح اجاوب عن سؤالك بشكل ايش مباشر. خليني افتح جوجل. اوكي ثواني. معلش عشان علق share screen. تمام. Can you see my Google? زميلتنا قالت ذهبت أدراج الرياح، صح؟ نجرب أول واحدة. شو قلنا بنكتبها؟ بنكتب English. بنشوف. هات نشوف. بندور في أول كم من واحدة. ذهبت أحلام أدراج الرياح. ننزل لتحت شوية. ترجمان. وهي how do I say. تمام، بشوف طلع لي هيهم على طول طلعت لي. to go unheeded، to go in vain، ما يعني ما أخذت منك وقت، على طول هي طلعت. وهي هذا أعطاكي أكثر من ترجمة، وهي هذا أعطاكي how do I say it، هي كتب لك إياها gone with the wind.
يعني هي الفكرة إني بكتب الإكسبريشن اللي أنا بدي إياه وبحط اللغة اللي بدي أترجمه لها، صح؟
نعم.
يعني هي
صحيح،
الفكرة إني
نعم
بكتب
صحيح صحيح نعم.
تمام.
الآن أنا لو
تمام
ما
يا مس.
لقيتهاش بهاي الطريقة الأولى بستخدم أي طريقة من الطرق الثانية اللي ذكرناها، يعني بمشي عليهم بالتدريج.
تمام يا مس، شكرا.
عفوا، مين كمان عنده سؤال؟ مين عنده سؤال؟ هو أنا أهم حاجة يا جماعة إنه الأشياء اللي أنا ذكرتها في أول محاضرتين هم أهم شيء، وأنتي بتترجمي تحطيهم في بالك. لما يجيكي مثلا مقال في الطب، قبل ما أبدأ مثلا مقال عن السرطان، أنت عمرك في حياتك قريتي عنه بالعربي أو بالإنجليزي؟ لا، اقري عنه على الأقل مقال قصير بالعربي، واقري عنه مقال قصير بالإنجليزي، عشان يصير في يعني في أرضية ممكن تبني عليها الموضوع التخصصي اللي قاعدة بتترجمي فيه. تمام؟ وما بياخد مني وقت طويل. فهي الأول كم من محاضرة هم هدول كيف أترجم. بعد هيك إيش حنعمل؟ حأبعت لكم نصوص تترجموها ونناقشها أثناء، يعني تيجوا مترجمينها ونناقشها أثناء اللقاء. تمام؟
تمام يا مس.
إن شاء الله. في حد عنده أي سؤال؟ Yes, no, maybe, nothing. تمام، يعطيكم العافية.